Hi everybody and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans and I'm your weight loss coach, health strategist and internationally published author, helping take your life, your business, your health and fitness and body and mindset from where you are right now to be able to create whatever it is that you want to be able to create and where that is that you want to be. And today I want to talk to you about another reason, if you needed another one, as to exactly why you need to have a coach. In the space of your health and fitness, I know that you being in the top 1% of what it is that you do, that you will have coaches. You'll have more than one coach most likely. But this is a reason why you need to have a health and fitness coach, a weight loss coach, a strength and conditioning coach, whatever you like to term it. And I'm going to use myself as the case study. So in the last session, I was talking about the power of data and using my DEXA scan as a way to progress me this year. Well, here's another example of that. So after submitting all my information to my coach and a series of questions to him, we were talking about how do I move from where I am right now to getting to that place where I want to get to this year. Because here's the thing, that your mind plays tricks on you sometimes, and you can say, well, okay, I achieved the best looking body ever last year, the end of last year, so just eight weeks ago, just over 8 weeks ago. But when it starts this year, I can't start from exactly that position because of the work that's required into the training, the nutrition and everything, and the tapering off prior to that last photo shoot. So I can't work as hard as I did, and I can't use that as a platform to start from because I can't maintain at that level. So I needed to rest up, and it's now kind of like starting again. But that can play tricks on your mind because you're like, man, I've gone backwards. Is that a good thing? So talking through with my coach, and he gave a good example of like a high performance racing car. You can't go at 1,000% all the time, but it's just not going to work. And he said the results of your scan are probably really a fallout of how hard you worked last year and just how much your body's taken a hit when you've stopped momentarily. And my eating has been good, my training's still been good, not as focused as it was, but it's still been damn good. So he said, what we need to do is take a step back, ease up on things a bit so that we can have something to work with. Because he says, if you go to 1,000% right now, he said, we've got nowhere to go to from here. Because if you're already going flat out, then we can't use anything to modify. So what we need to do is to go back a little bit and rebuild again. So what that looks like for me is from next week, starting my strength training program again. So I've created a new program, 3 days a week. The key for me this year is to focus on resting more. And he said what we actually have to do is make sure that if anything, you're under-training rather than over-training so that we've really got this opportunity to grow. And so I've come up with a program which I think he'll actually wind back, but I wanted to push it a little bit and see, okay, is this possible for me? Is this the best thing for me doing right now? Or do I need to roll it back a little bit? And I think that's what he'll do. He'll say, no, let's just roll back a couple of sets there. Because it's in the range of about 11 sets. I think he'd probably get me to work around 8 sets, but we'll see. So we've created the program, not finalised yet. She hasn't given me the sign off for it, but we've got the program. In terms of the food, the next thing. So I was doing 6 very regimented meals previously, increasing the amount of plant-based food, doing all the right things, getting the right amount of protein in. But again, if I go back to do exactly that from now, we've got nothing to modify. So he says, let's just ease back a little bit, and rather than go 6 meals, we're going to go 5 highly nutritious meals. We're putting back in up to 2 liquid meals In other words, basically good quality, value protein, fruit smoothies with some omega-3. So like I use chia seeds, flax meal, that kind of stuff. And so in my peak of training, I wasn't doing any. Okay, so what do we do instead? We put in whole foods instead. So we're eating the protein, we're consuming the plant-based food. But what he's doing is getting me to take that out now so that we can get some gains, get the body in a different sort of rhythm, and then we can stimulate some further change by taking one of those out, putting in a hard meal, because that's a change to my body. So that's another one. And then not worrying about that sixth meal of the day, just getting in 5 highly nutritious meals, making sure that I'm eating every 3 hours from the time that I get up, and making them highly nutritious meals. So that's pretty easy for me. Sometimes the sixth meal can be a real stretch because I feel full and so forth. So 5 is quite manageable for me. And he says, look, don't be really fastidious about it. Don't be anal about it. Just focus on getting around 40 grams of protein in, highly nutritious meals, and that's what we're going to do for the first phase of the program, this is going to go for the first 6 weeks. It's a 12-week training block, but I'm doing it for the first 6 weeks. We'll see what the results are, and then we might make some changes from there depending on how it's going. The other part of the supplementation is to do with creatine. Creatine is a really, really powerful supplement that you can use. It's all legal, it's all natural. Actually, I don't know whether it is natural. It's creatine monohydrate, it's called. But it's a really good supplement, and it's good for you. And so I'm doing a series of creatine cycles in accordance with my eating as well. And my coach seems to think that over a 24-week period, so the first couple of cycles of my training, I should be able to put on about 5 kilos, maybe more. So that's quite exciting. So that's something new that I haven't done before. And just focusing on resting more, sleeping more. He says, if you feel like you've had enough sleep, you probably need more. If you think you need more, sleep more. So what does all this mean? Well, sometimes you need to step backwards in order for you to go forwards. And because I haven't been in a situation where I've achieved my best result and then stepped back from that and then achieved it again, the temptation is to jump back from week 1 and hitting everything completely hard, doing the food 100% and expecting to get a different outcome. The problem with that is that, like my coach says, you've got nowhere to go from there. If you're doing everything completely the way you were before, then we don't really have anything to modify. And you can't just train more to get a different outcome. Any athlete will tell you that. I remember asking Olympic gold medalist in shooting, in the trap shooting, this was double trap, I think. And so the things go up, or was it single? Maybe it was single. The things go up and you've got to shoot it with a gun. And I said to him, what happens if you have a day where, your eye's just out, you're not hitting as many targets? Do you just stay there and keep shooting more? He said, no, you can't. He said, because the recoil on the gun, and you see it when when they're doing it, the recoil on the gun is quite severe. So your shoulder takes a kickback. So he says, you get too fatigued. So you can't just keep shooting. He said, you've got to basically take your medicine, walk away, and come back another day and just try again. And this is a bit the same. You can't just keep training more and more to improve the results. And he said, you'll be surprised, my coach, you'll be surprised at how much the more rest that you have, that your body is going to grow. So it's not always about pushing harder. It's about doing it smarter. And certainly, as I get older, I probably don't recover as quickly, so I need to rest more. So what does all of this say? Well, this is why you need coaching. Like, this is an approach that I haven't taken before, and you want to bounce ideas off people, okay? And not just say, oh, what do you reckon? It's like, tell me exactly, because this is somebody that's worked with, some of the best athletes on the planet. And he knows exactly what it is that he's doing. He knows what the body needs. He's a scientist. He studied muscle fibers under the microscope. So he knows what to do to tell me to get the muscle response that I need, and talking about the rest, how to approach the food, how to tackle it differently this year, making sure that I'm getting sufficient rest, because this is something that I don't do. I am always pushing. I'm always making sure that I get up early, that I'm working long hours, that I'm doing all of those things. But just coincidentally, this year, in thinking about, so what do I want to achieve for this year? And obviously, my health and fitness is a really big part of that. But I've also been thinking about business-wise, family life, all that kind of stuff. What are the things that I need? And speaking to, I had a coaching session with Tycoon X, Mr. Tycoon X, and he is obviously incredibly successful at what he does. And one of the things that he said to me was, I said, look, I'm doing really well. The business is growing well. I love what I do. And I feel like, though, there's this something inside me that says, you need to do more. You need to do more. You need to do more. And he said to me, do you know what? He said, there's nothing wrong with being content. He said, there really isn't. And that got me thinking, because I thought he was going to say, no, you need to do this and you need to do that, and et cetera, but he didn't. And I thought, wow, maybe I am just in that right space where I need to be right now. And certainly having 2 teenage daughters, I can tell you that that brings some challenges with it. And one of the things that I want to make sure that I'm doing over this next probably 12 months to 2 years is make sure that I'm there for them as much as I can be, especially as they go through obviously the hormonal change as well. But they're at that age where they're trying to find their place in the world, and schoolwork is getting a lot harder, and just the different challenges. And each one of them has probably got different challenges right now. And, being a single dad in doing that, even though I co-parent well with their mum, it's a challenge. And I don't want them to get to the age as adults where they say, well, in these teenage years when the kids really need us, and they say, oh yeah, Dad wasn't really around. I don't want to be like that. I mean, I changed my whole career to do what I do now. And I don't think it's about balance, because I don't like that word, because I don't think we ever have a balance between work and life. It will always be towards work. But my goal is making sure that I allocate time for my kids, and then making sure when I have that time with them, I'm 100% present for them and with them when that time's there. Because that's where you build the connection, and that's everlasting, and they'll remember that. So I think just coincidentally this year, all of these things are probably coinciding just nicely, because I have worked, like these last 2 years, I've been working so incredibly hard. I've probably been depriving myself for a couple of years of proper sleep. And just like my coach is saying with my body transformation, I need to get more rest. So all of these things, the various coaches, I've mentioned 2 coaches there, I still want to grow the business. I still want to grow my body, and I still want to grow my relationships with my kids and be more present for them. But I think sometimes we can just get so caught up in, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this. But we don't necessarily stop and say, well, actually, there's nothing wrong with being content with where you are. If you're already successful, and saying, okay, maybe I'm just going to consolidate this year. Maybe I'm just going to produce what I produced last year, but do it better, do it more efficiently, do it that way. And that's certainly what I'm focusing on. I mean, we are unlikely to be able to travel for the next few years here. So there's going to be no trips to the US, there's going to be no interstate trips. The conferences and things that I've attended in the past for the last 10 years, they'll be off the cards again completely this year, I'd suggest. And so I think it's just going to be another really challenging and different year for all of us around the globe. But for me, I think connecting with the people around us is just so important, continuing to build those relationships. I think we just continue to find a way to work a little bit differently because our world has been changed forever now. So this is why we need coaches, right? Our coaches are there to help bounce our problems off, help get a different perspective. You don't necessarily take the coach's advice, but I always do. I always say, well, these people are more successful than I am, so let me do what they're saying because I'm going to get a better outcome. This is why you need a coach. Help you get better outcomes faster. That's the bottom line. Don't waste your time. And sometimes we have questions that come up that we think, well, this sounds like a good idea, that next shiny object, but you ask the coach and say, no, actually don't do that. Like in my situation here, I talked to my strength and conditioning coach yesterday. I said, maybe I should be doing these couple of things because of my age now and making sure that I get leaner quicker and all that kind of stuff. And he said, your body is where it is because of how hard you pushed it last year. It's just a side effect of that. He said, don't worry about it. He said, this is just a base from where we now move from. And he said, we're just going to effectively like rebuilding the house, except the foundations are already there. We're just going to change the brick structure and do it a little bit differently this year. Because I didn't have as much rest last year. I did back-to-back programs and virtually had no rest. And that obviously had a big toll on my body. And sometimes it just shows up in ways that we really don't expect. And you only notice it when you're so lean. And then you make some changes and say, well, it's not that I'm excessively overweight. I'm still very lean. But when you're looking for that high performance, a slight change can maybe have a bigger difference. So I guess the other factor about all of this is that over the last few weeks I've been building this enthusiasm to really hit the program again hard, because last year I was so focused and I did so well. I was in such a good space, and I do think we're going to get locked down again here. And that's going to suit me because all my workouts that I've designed are all for inside my studio here. I don't need any other pieces of equipment or anything. So if we get locked down, I'm set. And we've done it before, so I can do it again. And it'll be quite easy, I think. So building back that excitement about what it is that you're going to do this year, whether it is your body transformation, a health transformation, your work. I find that at the end of a year, the start of a new year, we can feel a little flat. And this is why I don't like taking big breaks, because if you take a big break, it can take you weeks to get back into the swing of where you were with that mindset before. And so I didn't want to do that. So I feel good about this. I feel good about seeing a pathway forward. And this is why coaching is so important, because that will help you map out a plan. And if you've got a coach and a plan, then it just comes down to you putting in place everything that you said you would. And I mean, isn't that what makes life exciting? I mean, we work out what our goal is, we come up with a plan, we get our coaching, we hold ourselves accountable, they hold us accountable to achieving the results. In my case, it's scans, it's photos, it's doing it weekly, it's sending all that data through, it's recording daily what it is that I eat. And just absolutely loving it. Just loving it. So, depending on where you are, take some inspiration from this session. If you don't have a coach, reach out to me and we'll get you started with your health and fitness transformation. If it's about your business, let's start a conversation and let's get you moving in the right direction to achieving all the things that you want to achieve this year. Maybe what it is that you've been doing in the past isn't going to take you where you need to get to this year. And I think that's what my discussion over the last 48 hours has been with my coach. I can't do what I did last year to get a completely different result. So we need to do it differently. And we can't start from where I left off in some regards. My body's starting a little bit back from there. But my whole approach this year needs to be a little bit different. And just coincidentally, I was watching a movie over the weekend, and it was talking about running and just the science behind how do you get faster. And this was distance running. And it was about going slower to get faster. In other words, training slower, even competing slower for certain splits up to a certain time, but doing the training, doing faster splits, and then implementing that into a race. So sometimes you just got to go backwards. You've got to go a little bit slower so that you can go forward and go faster and get that better result. Wherever you are in the world today, you be safe. We're having a heat wave here. We've got bushfires in parts of Australia. Right now, it's around lunchtime. I'm hoping we don't get bushfires here in Victoria again. We had some shockers last year. It's going to be up close to 40 today. It's really hot and windy out there, and that's normally bad bushfire weather. So wherever you are, now it's winter over the other side of the world, but stay safe, stay COVID safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.